Good morning for AM 1340, 99.5 FM WGRV. I'm Reid Seals, and I'm here this morning with Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison for our monthly interview. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Reid.
So first off, why does the commission have to wait until a time of redistricting to decide if they want to change the number of commissioners?
Well, technically, Reid, we don't have to wait, but to preclude any type of legal challenge due to representation, redrawing the lines in the middle of a period where you're not redistricting officially across the state just opens us up to the potential for someone to step forward and say, well, you know, this isn't fair. The representation has been changed sort of midstream, if you will. And so CTAS, the comptroller's office, everybody sort of legally involved with the effort has said that sort of the start-finish line is during redistricting, and this posed a good time to do this because of the census as well. So that's the reason we wait. We don't have to. I know Hawkins County next door, they redistrict and lowered their number of commissioners several years ago. But they did have to face, you know, some legal questions that come up as a result of that. So that's the reason we wait.
So tell us about the EMS Employee Incentive Plan.
Well, for a while now, and, you know, government agencies aren't any really much different than private business and industry when it comes to the staffing issues that we've all seen, you know, from restaurants to business industry and across the board here most recently. The big difference with EMS, obviously, is those guys and gals, you know, perform a service in a specialized field. So you have to have specialized training for that. And we've all racked our brains trying to develop a solution that might incentivize, you know, the already sort of overworked, underpaid employees to receive a little extra reward for, you know, putting in, you know, going the extra mile and putting in the extra effort. So we've come up with this incentive plan where we incentivize for performance based on calls. So the employees essentially for each call that they're called out on will receive a stipend, if you will, of $5 per call. And that averages out to somewhere around $200 to $350 a month extra incentive based on the call average that we have right now for an average employee if they want to work the extra calls. Any out of town calls, for instance, that EMS employees would come in and volunteer to run or actually go on shift would be paid $50 for out-of-town calls. Now, out-of-town calls isn't, for instance, to Johnson City. That would be more or less to places like Vanderbilt or Emory down in Atlanta and that sort of thing, which we do very, very rarely, but we do have occasion to do that occasionally. But that's the primary purpose of the incentive plan, is to give a little extra reward for a little extra effort on people that have a very specialized field in which there are very few to actually get to fill these slots. So that's the type of plan that it is. So hopefully we can retain the employees that we have and actually with this plan attract maybe some new employees to fill the slots that we have open.
So staying on the same subject, what is the purpose of the EMS Quality Assurance Specialist?
Well, the Quality Assurance Specialty position is a position required by state law that essentially maintains the certifications for EMS, employee and equipment wise and training wise. Obviously, it's not sort of a, you know, you don't become an EMT or a paramedic and then there's professional certifications and training that you have to maintain throughout the year, you know, similar to, for instance, to CPR certification and things like that. Although for them, this is a little bit more advanced, knowing how to run the equipment, heart monitors and things like that. And it's a position required by the state. Up until now, we had a part-time certified person doing that job, and they left and went out of state. So that left a vacancy. And this is a position that not just anyone can perform. So it's not like you can just go and assign this duty to someone that's already in the service. They have to have specific instructor certifications and that sort of thing. And we actually have an employee that that is sort of confined to light duty that has those certifications that can perform this work for us, keep us state compliant. And that was the decision that was made, was to put this person in there so that Greene County EMS doesn't have to go to, for instance, to a private contractor or get someone to come in. Obviously, there's some, logistics problems with that, scheduling, that sort of thing, and this just makes it more convenient. So we didn't necessarily add an employee per se, but we just come into compliance with some of the state regulations and things that are required for EMS.
What is the county going to do with the money from the opioid lawsuit?
Well, that will be ultimately up to the commission to decide. Some of the solutions set forth, at least, or will be presented to the county commission, will be to put the opioid lawsuit monies in the debt service. And the reason for that primarily is because the county has already incurred cost due to addiction, opiate treatment, mental health treatment, that sort of thing. So this sort of backfills, if you will, or pays back those incurred bills without us having to raise taxes. So that's one plan for the money. I know other colleagues of mine, county mayors and other places, have looked at perhaps establishing some type of regional treatment facility with part of their funds. Everyone sort of is in the same boat as Greene County. For instance, they've incurred extra costs due to incarceration, due to treatment. For instance, just to give you an example, our closest mental health treatment facility, if Woodridge, for instance, in Johnson City, that's operated by Ballard, is full, and oftentimes they are full. So if the court deems it necessary for someone to be evaluated, we actually have to transport them to Moccasin Bend in Chattanooga. And obviously, if they're depending upon when their appointment is and how extensive their evaluation and treatment is, they may have to stay overnight multiple days. So that's at direct cost to the Greene County taxpayers. So, and that's been going on now for several years, obviously. So the sheriff has somewhat absorbed a little bit of that into his budget. We've absorbed a little bit into the administration of justice, or the court system's budget. The general fund budget has absorbed some of those costs. We want to put that money in a place where we can recoup those costs and without having to burden the taxpayers and ask them for anything else. So we feel that's a good place. But other counties are in the same place. We've actually had discussions about, again, starting some type of regional facility, but then again, that's an ongoing expense that would have to be maintained, and you're talking about millions of dollars for a facility. There's been discussions about using a portion, for instance, of Green Valley for that. There's the Roan Mountain Workhouse that's now empty, that the state has declared surplus, that's looked at as perhaps a place for that type of thing, using some of the opioid settlement money from a little bit from all of the counties to start some facility like that. But again, that's an ongoing expense that, when the opiate money has expired from the different jurisdictions, then where does that funding come from? So a plan has to be carefully crafted so as if the expenses are recurring, what's going to be the future for the funding of those programs. And we're looking at, obviously, making sure that we have our bills paid that we've incurred up to this point, and then carefully evaluating sort of the commitment of those funds in the future. So those are a couple of areas that are being looked at, but ultimately it's the county commission's decision to decide, and I'm sure that'll be done pretty soon, probably in October.
Well, I want to thank Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison for joining us this morning. This is Reid Seals for AM 1340 and 99.5 FM WGRV.